Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report, week number 7. I am Drew Martin, joined by Teddy Covers, getting you on the right side of some of these line moves, guys. We got side total analysis coming your way, a little look here on the Monday Nighter as well. But without further ado, red hot Teddy Covers, up at over 70% the last 3 weeks in the NFL, my man. Welcome on in.
Yeah, I'm still mad though. Doesn't matter. Yeah, we've been winning the 3. We had a good day yesterday, but the Giants really pissed me off last night. Chase Brown really pissed me off last night. So I should have had a perfect day in the NFL yesterday, and I didn't. I'm not happy about it. That being said, what happened? Let's start with this: 9-3-1 to the over so far this week, and favorites of -3 or higher, 8-1-1 against the spread. That's a bad combo for the books. Without a doubt, week 6, the worst week of the NFL season for the books here in Vegas. I'm expecting to hear more dismal reports of how the books did from around the country today, but it was absolutely a week where the public crushed and the books got annihilated. We talk about those weekends happening in October. Lo and behold, it happened in October. 2 buys this week, Dallas and Chicago. Dallas wants to go on bye, Chicago not so much. And it's worth noting, no buys in week 8, no buys next week. So we talked about some of the bet on trends for teams heading into their bye week. None of those trends are in play this week because nobody's on bye next week. So, it's been a good run. Drew, 70% over the last 3 weeks. Let's see if we can keep it going.
Let's see if we can. We got Monday Nighter. We're going to do a quick look here, guys. Bills and Jets. Teddy, we are seeing Bills -1. Actually, it's ticked up to -1.5 here after dropping a little bit. 41.5 being the total. Something I noticed here is the Jets not getting a full bye week after the London game. But I'll throw it over to you. Any quick thoughts here with the Bills and the Jets?
Yeah, and that's team choice. The team gets to when they take an international trip, they're allowed to have the bye next week if they want it. And the Jets chose to have a bye later in the season for whatever it's worth. Therefore, they're in play against Buffalo tonight. This way, let's talk about, okay, so the Bills are the public side in this game, and the public's cleaned up all week. So in theory, it's supposed to be a Jets spot. And of course, the new coach fired theory and the fact that they don't have Todd Downing on tape is probably advantage Jets as well. The money initially after the firing came in on New York. There was -2.5 for Buffalo. That went down to -1. Here on game day, we're seeing the -1s now get bet up for the Bills to 1.5. Total 41.5. We saw some under money initially, and now we're seeing over money. So whatever we saw early, we're seeing the opposite of that late right now. Early, we saw money for the Jets and under. Here on game day, we've seen money for the Bills and over.
Like it, Teddy. Good start here as we got Thursday, October 17th. We're kicking off the NFL Opening Line Report here. Denver and New Orleans, Teddy. 37 in the hook being the total. We're seeing the Saints -1 point home favorites in the Big Easy. Both teams not looking good yesterday off of the loss. I guess we get New Orleans staying home with the short week. But at the same time, there's a trend over the last 4 years that hasn't necessarily been profitable. I'll throw it over to you, Teddy. We get Broncos at Saints from the Big Easy.
So with all of these games, I'm going to give you 4 different sets of point spreads. The first one, we call it the look-ahead line. This is a bettable line on this game from last week. These numbers come from the Westgate Superbook. There are a couple books that put them out. I use the Westgate numbers here in Vegas. The second line, and I apologize, I do not have the look-ahead totals this week. I didn't write them down. It's my fault. But sometimes you have off-field issues that will affect your prep, and that happened last week. So I do not have the look-ahead totals. That being said, I got all the look-ahead sides. Second number is going to be my powering number, and that's pure Team A versus Team B. No situation involved in my powering number. So I'll give you the look-ahead number, my powering number. We'll talk about the opening number last night, and then where the money has moved since the opener this morning. So 4 sets with every game. So New Orleans was -2.5 on the look-ahead. My powering number has New Orleans -1, really -0.5 point in this game. You can make it a pick. I have pick it /1. The markets opened 1.37 last night. We're seeing 1.37.5 today, so a little bit of over money, but we really haven't seen a lot of action on this ball game yet. And Denver got destroyed yesterday, and they made a game of it, and they actually had a chance to make things real interesting late. I had a big ticket play on the Chargers, and I thought it was going to be easy, and nothing's easy in the NFL. And the Broncos, that's the second time this year that I've seen Denver in a very difficult situation show a lot of heart. We saw that against Seattle in their opener, and then yesterday when they were down 20-0 in the fourth. And again, they had 2 turnovers, 5 punts, their first 7 drives, and then made a game of it. Sean Payton after the game, we did all the things you can't do in a game like that. We didn't do a number of things well today. Bo Nix just didn't perform how we want, but felt like the fight was there. The defense was excellent at the line of scrimmage. Even with the Patrick Surtain injury, they had 3 sacks on Herbert. They controlled the line of scrimmage. They only allowed 3.4 yards per carry. So the defense has played well for Denver throughout. The offense has been hit or miss, and of course, Surtain's injury for the Broncos could well be a factor here. If the Saints have any healthy receivers, the Saints, since that 2-0 start, have now lost 4 in a row. All right. You got a rookie quarterback making his first NFL start. What do you need? You need a running game. And the Saints running back, 17 carries, 54 yards, just over 3 yards per carry. Didn't get the job done. Spencer Rattler, there were positive signs. He saw 9 different receivers that caught a pass. That's impressive for a rookie in his first start. But that being said, the Saints played one good quarter in that ballgame. I'm going to talk about it when we talk about Tampa, because Tampa played one really bad quarter. And for the rest of the game, they got absolutely annihilated. All right. This is a team on a 4-game losing streak. Their defense just allowed 35 carries for 277 yards on the ground. Their starting quarterback is hurt. They're playing a rookie at QB. Dennis Allen, quote, "Our tackling was atrocious. When you don't tackle, give up explosive plays." And it just kind of snowballed on us. New Orleans just became only the 5th team in NFL history to give up 300 yards passing and 275 yards rushing in the same game. All right. And the injury report for the Saints didn't get any better. All right. Obviously, they're missing Carr. They're missing Taysom Hill. They're missing the center, Eric McCoy, and the guard, Louis Maurice, and the guard, Louis Patrick, and the starting safety, Tyrann Mathieu. And then Chris Olave got hurt yesterday as well. So this is a very banged-up Saints team, a team that has depth issues to begin with. If the injury report looks bad for New Orleans, don't be surprised if we see at least a little bit of Denver money.
Sure. Any chance you think the Broncos go off as the favorite?
Only, I doubt it. Unless the injury report for the Saints looks worse than I thought it was going to look. Tampa went off 3.5 against Denver. I don't know that against New Orleans. I don't know that Denver's going to attract that same type of betting excitement, especially on a short week with a rookie QB.
Makes sense, Teddy. Guys, let's flip the script here. Sunday, October 20th. We do have the London game going all the way through afternoon kicks, Sunday nighter. And then we got 2 Monday night games on the slate here for Week 7 NFL. Going down in rotation order using the WagerTalk Live odds screen. 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. 451-452. New England and Jacksonville from Wembley Stadium in London, England. It is -5 in the hook. That's the Jags as the home favorite. 42 in a hook, mostly 43s out there as the total, Teddy. One thing I remember from doing the show with you, the one team you do give an edge in international games to is Jacksonville, slightly playing in London. Wondering if that's part of this move here. -3 in a hook at the opener. I'm seeing -5.5 now. Jags and the Patriots from London, Teddy.
Yeah, I gave the Jags a point for staying in London and the familiarity with London. So I gave them a 1-point home field edge in this ball game. Look ahead line, Jacksonville -3.5. Jacksonville got destroyed, and now they're laying 5.5, which tells us how New England looked this past weekend in Drake May's first NFL start. My powering number had Jags -5.5. And again, that's with the 1 point that I gave. It opened 5-42 last night. This morning, 5.5 with even a prominent 6 out there. 43. So we've seen a little bit of Jacksonville money. We've seen a little bit of over money from the opener for this one. So positive signs for New England yesterday. The offense scored 21 points. It's week 6, and that's a season high. And Drake May took shots. It was a different looking offense for New England. They were firing downfield in a way that they weren't doing with Jacoby Brissett behind center. That being said, Drake May took shots. He also took sacks, 4 of them. He made mistakes, 2 interceptions. The team had 4 turnovers. They had 9 penalties. They had 12 penalties against Miami last week. The discipline for New England isn't there right now. No Patriots running back gained 20 yards. in the game where they just lost by 20 at home to Houston. May had 38 out of scramble. And the defense, which was supposed to carry New England, well, they allowed 6.9 yards per carry against the Texans and gave up a season-high 41 points. So when we talk about positive signs for New England, we're not seeing a whole lot of them just now. The defense, every bit as bad as the offense right now, maybe worse. We talk about Gerard Mayo, talking about May after the game. Quote, I thought he showed a lot of poise. I thought he went out there and controlled the huddle, got those guys out of the huddle, and once again made some plays. It's definitely encouraging. From a team-wide perspective right now, we let him down. It was his first game, and I feel like I let him down. I'm sure that all the coaches feel like we let everybody down. We've just got to be better. Easier said than done. A first-year, first-time head coach who's a little bit embattled in New England right now. Of course, the Jaguars are now 2-10 straight up in their last 12 games. The 2 victories during that span, well, they beat Carolina and Indy. They're 1-5 this year. They're staying in London, which is a positive. And there were good things in yesterday's game against the Bears. They went 7 of 15 on third downs, 2 of 2 on fourth. They converted their chances, but they didn't turn it into points. 8 penalties, 2 turnovers. And, of course, Doug Peterson just got the dreaded vote of confidence from Shad Khan, the owner of the team. Quote, we have to figure out how to just get out of our own way and play football. I say that, and it sounds easy, but it's tough. It's a tough game to play. We didn't expect to be here in this spot. And, hey, now we have to find a way to get out of it. In theory, they got the right opponent and the right time to be able to take advantage of that. But laying points with the Jags hasn't exactly been a profitable endeavor during this 2-10 straight up run.
Good stuff, TC. On to the 10 a.m. Pacific kicks here. 453, 454 up next. Heading to the ATL for the Falcons hosting the Seahawks. We are seeing both -2 and a hook in the global market and -3 in the global market and in Las Vegas right now, Teddy. So kind of a split line here. 50 in the hook being the total Seahawks at Falcons from Mercedes-Benz.
Yeah, look ahead line, Atlanta -2.5. My powering number, Atlanta -3. As you mentioned, the market's open 2.5/3 last night. And they're still 2.5/3 today. So if you want to bet this game now, take +3, lay -2.5. Real simple. Let's ask anyone that had Baltimore, Washington yesterday what the difference is between laying 6.5 and laying 7, and or taking 7 and taking 6.5. Big difference around the key numbers. So if you want to get involved now, you can do so. I don't know which way this line is going to end. I really don't know if we're going to see 2.5 or 3 by kickoff. But for right now, you can take advantage whichever side you like. Now, we talk about Seattle now on a 3-game skid. This is a defense that's problematic, okay? They played the Lions and the 49ers, 2 pretty good offenses during this skid. They also played the Giants, who do not have a great offense, and they couldn't get stops in any of them. They got a kick return touchdown. Didn't matter against San Francisco. They can't run the football right now. 20 carries for 52 yards against San Fran. Kenneth Walker, the third, just 32 on the ground. But there's clear urgency this week after losing 3 straight. Coach McDonald, we're just not doing the things that good football teams do to win football games. We're going to attack it. We're going to take a breather here. They play Thursday. Really go back and dissect the heck out of this thing. Safety, Rayshon Jenkins. Quote, we have the right guys in the room to get the job done. We just have to be real and accountable. As long as we do that, we should be okay. But it has to happen sooner rather than later. These are typical quotes from what you see from a team on a skid. Seattle's injury report and their defense struggling right now, and Geno Smith hasn't been good enough against elite teams. Atlanta's not an elite team yet, but they're playing close with everyone. I mean, they haven't trailed by more than 8 points all season. They're playing all these one-score games. Finally, they played an opponent they could pull away from in terms of Carolina yesterday. But the key for that ball game, the ability to run the football. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier combined 33 carries for 200 yards. Drake London, Kyle Pitts combined 9 catches, 144. Playmakers are making plays now for Kirk Cousins. This offense is looking pretty good. That being said, I do have my concerns about Atlanta defensively right now when we're talking about laying points with them. And, Raheem Morris, quote, last week we were able to throw it 58 times and threw it for 509 yards. This week we were able to run for 198. That's a sign of a good football team when you have to find ways to beat them. When we're taking what you're giving us and going out there and dealing. Atlanta, very much an over team right now. And certainly We talk about what the line is doing here. All the early money, if I had an emergency betting alert, it'd be over right now for this game because we've seen nothing but over money from the opener, and we're still seeing over money. 51s popping up as we speak.
Good stuff, Teddy. And guys, seeing in the chat box here, some people asking about totals. We'll try to get to questions at the end of the NFL opening line report. Let us know in the live chat. Any questions, fire away, where you agree, where you disagree. Also in the comments below, guys, let us know you're watching. Any questions, we'll answer them on next week's show. We got Tennessee and Buffalo up next here, Teddy. Bills, -8 in the hook. There is a -9 out there. 42 being the total. Of course, the Bills playing Monday Night Football, but here for week 7, they are hosting the Titans and laying 8.5 or 9.
Yeah, look ahead line here, Buffalo -8.5. My powering number, Buffalo -8.5. The line opens. Buffalo -8.5. The line's holding. Buffalo -8.5. So we got something on this number. Not seeing a whole lot of movement on it just yet, although it could be affected by how the Bills look tonight. If the Bills get bombed by the Jets, that number could be a notch or two shorter. If the Bills blow out the Jets, we could see this as high as double digits. In theory, for this ballgame, although in theory it'll also be a letdown spot for Buffalo coming off a huge Monday Night Football blowout win on a short week. So I would think if the Bills look bad, it's more likely to be shorter than if the Bills look good. That the line would go up. All that being said, look, two teams really stood out to me yesterday as teams that don't have a quarterback. Nobody on the roster. There's nobody there. Tennessee's one of those teams. Will Levis, we've seen enough. You know, they've got Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, and Tyler Boyd, and there's no chance they can't get him the ball in space. 27 dropbacks against a bad defense, missing 3 of their 4 defensive linemen. Not much of a pass rush. He wasn't sacked in the game. 27 dropbacks for 95 total yards. It was useless. This team has no quarterback. You know, Callahan, quote, "We aren't making enough plays to win tight games. We got to find a way to do that." You know, third time they lost by a TD or less. I got a way to find us help us get there because right now losing 1-score games is tough. Well, if they lose a 1-score game here, they cover the number. But you know, there's hope for Tennessee. This is not a hopeless team. But the quarterback play there is really subpar, and they don't have any good options. And that's not the case for Buffalo.
Teddy, we get Cincinnati and Cleveland up next. Little regional rivalry here. -5. That's the Bengals as the road favorite. 43 being the total. Bengals at Browns next game up.
Look ahead line here. Cleveland, Cincy -3.5. My powering number is only Cincy -3. I'll talk about why in a minute. Markets opened 4.5, 44. We're seeing 5s popping up, and there's been under money coming in on this one pretty steadily. 43, the current number. Look, the Bengals were destroyed by the Giants last night in a lot of ways. All right. Giants had 24 first downs to Cincy's 13. Cincy had 2 touchdowns. The first one came on a 3rd and 18 scramble. I forget how long that run from Burrow was. It felt like 100 yards. The second one came when they were trying to run out the clock, and the running back Brown was supposed to slide down after the first down. This is not an offense that's fixed, and it's not a defense that's fixed. There are issues still for Cincy, although they did get off the schneid with the win there. That being said, this line's about Cleveland and the struggles that Cleveland is having. Let's talk about it. The Browns lead the NFL with 36 offensive penalties this season. The average third down for Cleveland this year has been 3rd and 9. 9.2, in fact. That's the average third down.
Wow. Since
2007, the Browns rank 574th out of 576 teams in average yards to go on third down. And the offensive line's a disaster right now. You know, Jedrick Willis, Jack Conklin, the 2 starting tackles, they've missed most of this season. Will's back. And he wasn't good yesterday. Wyatt Teller, the guard, is on injured reserve. The tackle, DeJuan Jones, was good last year in replacement. This year he's been awful. 8 different linemen have played at least 50 snaps. And, of course, let's not forget Bill Callahan, their offensive line coach, the legendary Bill Callahan. Well, he's in Tennessee now, coaching for his son. Deshaun Watson has been sacked once, at least once, on 27 different drives this season. Second in the NFL is New England, who has 19 drives with at least 1 sack. So they're just lapping the field when it comes to drives with sacks. And, of course, when you talk about drives during drives after a sack, they average about 1 point per drive. Doesn't happen a whole lot. They're only converting 19.2% of their third downs this year. The only offense since the start of 2000 that has been this bad was the 2010 Bears, who had my old friend Todd Collins starting a quarterback for a couple of those games. Now look, and of course, at Cleveland at one point during the game was they converted one of their previous 25 or 26 third down attempts. Seems failing. The defense played well. Special teams gave them a chance, but they had 2 false starts when they were inside the 10-yard line, and settled for a field goal, and they never saw the ball again. Look, they got a touchdown on a blocked field goal. They held Saquon Barkley to 2.6 yards a carry, and they still found a way to lose. And by the way, the center, Nick Harris, got carted off the field in that ballgame as well, leaving the offensive line in continued disarray, which is why the number for Cincy is higher than my number. I understand the anti-Cleveland sentiment in the betting marketplace. I just know I don't want to lay with Cincinnati.
Great stat there, TC. I mean, that Cleveland third down averaging third, and that's got to be the worst through week 6 in the NFL, right? I mean, historically,
it was the worst. Let me scroll back up, and I'll get it. Out of 576 teams since 2007. On average yards to go on third down, Cleveland ranks 574th out of the 576 teams.
What a stat.
Since 2007.
Yeah.
Bill Barnwell.
Thanks
to Bill Barnwell. Good stuff.
Next one up, guys, 459-460. We get Houston and Green Bay. We are seeing the Packers -2.5 a couple shops. I'm also seeing -3 out there, Teddy. So an important one here, 47 being the total, Texans and Packers from Lambeau.
Yep. Look headline here, Green Bay -1.5. My powering number, Green Bay -3. The market's open, split line last night, 2.5, 3, and it's still a split line today with 2.5, 3 for Green Bay and Houston. Total open 47, sitting at 47. There is a prominent 47.5 at the Circa, which is a leading indicator book. So we could see some over money in that contest. Texans took a 14-0 lead in New England yesterday, and they kind of fell asleep. At times, I've seen a lack of going for the jugular for Houston. And the Pats' mistakes led to the second half blowout. They ran for 6.2 yards per carry. Joe Mixon back. And, of course, they had 192 yards in that ballgame. When they run, they can score 40. D'Amico Ryans after the game. These guys bring playmaking ability. Very excited to see those guys do it more for us. But very pleased with the run game and how they got after it. And that could be a vulnerability for Green Bay. Then again, Green Bay, 27 first down, 6.2 yards per play. They had good fumble luck in yesterday's game. 3 Cardinals fumbles, all recovered by Green Bay. Romeo Doubs back from suspension. Boy, he was an impact player. 2 touchdown catches. Jordan Love, quote, "We're a family. We're all in this thing together. So just staying together, keeping that brotherhood is definitely important to us." Matt LaFleur sounds a little fat and happy here. Quote, "We talked about coming into this game and playing 4 quarters of complimentary football, and I thought that was about as good as we could have done it. There's always stuff we can clean up, but I thought in all, the effort from start to finish, the focus from start to finish was exactly what is a great formula for winning football. Not always easy to play your A game 2 weeks in a row."
Teddy, moving down the list here, we got 461, 462, 10 a.m. Pacific kick, Miami and Indianapolis. We are seeing 43 in the hook being the total. Indy -3.5 home favorites hosting the Dolphins.
Yeah, look at line here. Indy -3.5. My powering number, Indy -4. The market's open 3.5 and 42 last night. Looking at the markets right now, 3.5 and 43.5. So we have seen some over money for Miami and Indy, and that's a leap of faith if you've seen the Dolphins offense before the bye week. They made just enough plays to beat the Patriots. I don't know there was another team that they could do in the league. They had a blocked punt. They had 2 missed field goals, one off the upright, another one a botched snap. They had another snap over the quarterback's head. They took him out of range for another field goal attempt. They threw an interception that set up the Patriots' only touchdown. This team has not been good since Tua got hurt. Plain and simple. The fullback, Alec Ingold, quote, "Some of the things that we're shooting ourselves in the foot with right now, if it was a full team, we'd be able to overcome these issues. We know that's not acceptable. It's not to the standards. We all know we need to tighten that up." Worth noting, McDaniel off a bye. Last year, they beat Vegas 20-13. They beat Houston 30-15 in 2022. And they also beat the Jets pre-McDaniel off a bye in 2021. Tua is eligible to come off the IR in week 8. Not this week, next week. We expect to see Huntley this week. Huntley has not been good for Miami just yet. That's why the Colts are favored. Because the Colts are a very problematic team. You know, if you watched them beat Tennessee yesterday, there was all tight in the mistakes. There wasn't a whole lot that Indy did right. They can't stop the run. This defense still missing 3 of their 4 starters of the defensive line. They allowed 5.2 yards per carry. Joe Flacco has now 8 straight regular season games with at least 2 touchdown passes. That's tied for the NFL longest active streak with Jordan Love. But could see Anthony Richardson back this week. He was supposed to play this last Sunday. He, in theory, could be back here. We don't know if it's going to be Flacco or Richardson. The markets are saying, we don't care. Power rating number basically the same. Indy, 11 penalties for 113 yards. They got 9 players on injury reserve right now. Defense did play well down the stretch. It held Tennessee to 241 yards. In the fourth quarter with the game on the line, a pair of 3-and-outs, an interception, and a punt forced on defense. Shane Steichen, they stepped up big time there in the fourth quarter for us getting those stops. May not be as easy here against a Miami team that's certainly hungry and will have extra time to repair if they can find a way to throw the ball downfield.
Detroit and Minnesota next one up here. Top 2 teams in the NFC North, 5-0 versus 4-1 here, both straight up and ATS, as we get the Vikings -1.5 or -2, kind of a split line here. 49 and a hook being the total. Lions at Vikings. Next one up, Teddy.
Yeah, in the history of the NFL, all 4 teams from one division have not made the playoffs. The playoffs started today. I believe all 4 teams from the NFC North would be in, although way too early to start talking postseason. But it just speaks to how historically good this division potentially could be. Look at line here, Minnesota -1. My powering number is Pick'em. Markets open 1.5/2 last night, total 51.5. And today, more 1.5s than 2s, so there are a handful of 2s out there for Minnesota against Detroit. Lions were pretty freaking good yesterday. Dominant, complete domination on both sides of the line of scrimmage. They didn't turn the ball over. They forced 5 Cowboys turnover. They had 492 yards of offense. They allowed only 250. They had 184 rushing yards with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They allowed only 53. Huge win, of course, a win that they were looking forward to. Dan Campbell, quote, "I thought we really played the most complete game we probably played here in a long time, if not the most since we've been here. We applied pressure. We finally got multiple takeaway game. We talked about it. These things will come in bunches." So much like we talked a minute ago about, who's going to be fat and happy, it's a division game, but the Lions are very, very satisfied with what they did. And of course, when you talk about an impact injury, Aiden Hutchinson matters. The guy who was the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year. Guy, I believe he was, if not led the league in sacks, was one of the league leaders in sacks. And Hutchinson now out long term. Jared Goff, he's a guy who's part of the heartbeat of this team. He's a leader, does everything right. And have him go down like that and be visibly upset is tough for all of us. Knowing him, he'll be fine. We will bounce back. Do they have answers? Without Hutchinson, you don't replace a guy like that. That being said, defensive line depth is a strength for Detroit. Josh Pascal, Levi Onwuzurike, DJ Reader, and we could see perhaps James Houston. He was inactive this past Sunday, but he did have 8 sacks as a rookie back in 2022. So the Lions have potential when it comes to making Hutchinson's absence modest. So Minnesota, I don't love the spot. They're 5-0 off a win in London and a bye week, which is something of a concern. We talk about Kevin O'Connell off a bye. They beat Arizona 24-16 in 2022. Last year off a bye, they had 1 win in their final 7 games, and it came off the bye. That said, it was with Nick Mullins at quarterback, and the final score of that game was 3-0 against Las Vegas. So they pitched a shutout off a bye. This is a Minnesota, we respect Minnesota line. And it's also we worry about Detroit coming off their best game line. That's the only reason the Vikings are favored.
Like the analysis, Teddy. And a huge shout out to the comments on last week's show, Smoky Steams Bet, saying, hey, go with the Lions because off of a bye in the Campbell area. So great call there. We also got Notorious Show in there saying he was taking the Lions. So shout out to you guys putting out the good stuff in the comments. We got Philadelphia and New York Giants next game up, Teddy. -3 or -3 in the hook. That is the Eagles as the road favorite, 43 being the total.
Yeah, look at line was a little bit higher. Look at line is Philly -4. My powering number is Philly -4.5. Markets open 3.5, 44.5, and they've taken out a lot of the 3.5s. There's still a couple out there, but we're mostly seeing 3 minus juice and 43. So we've seen some under money, and we've seen a little bit of money for the G-men. Philly, I mean, it wasn't pretty for Philly yesterday. The fact that Nick Sirianni's jawing with the fans coming off the field after that 20-16 win is not a good look. Creates lots of internet fodder, and it speaks to the distaste the Philadelphia fan base has for their head coach right now. And of course, after the game, Sirianni goes, just excited to get the win. Appreciate the link support. Saquon Barkley only 2.6 yards per carry on 18 carries. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, both back, both with 40-plus big play catches. Brown at 6 for 116. So this Smith had 3 for 64. And, of course, defensively, they didn't give up a touchdown. Cleveland got their only touchdown on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown before halftime. It's very bad news for Philly first half bettors. There are more injuries to report for Philadelphia right now. Dallas Goedert had a hamstring injury. Darius Slay left with a knee injury. And another offensive tackle, Jordan Mailata, also left with a hamstring injury. So banged up Eagles team is now even more banged up. And yesterday's win against Cleveland, it didn't stop the Boo Birds, and it didn't make anyone think that Philly's about to turn their season around. The Giants, in many ways, they controlled the game last night against Cincy. They won first downs 24-13, but it's all dink and dunk for the G-men without Neighbors. There's no downfield game. They had 2 missed field goals. They couldn't recover a fumble. They went 0 for 1 in the red zone. They only had 2 penalties, but it still wasn't enough. In 3 games at home, the Giants are winless and have scored only 1 touchdown. Since he came into the game, ranked 31st in the league in scoring defense. And the Giants punted 4 times in the first half. The second half, they turned it over on downs twice and missed a couple of field goal attempts. This is not an offense poised to take advantage of Philadelphia's defensive weaknesses right now.
10 a.m. Pacific kicks in the books. We are moving to the afternoon kicks up next. Las Vegas Raiders, LA Rams, TC, -5 in the hook. That's the Rams as the home favorite. There's a -6 out there, 43.5 being the total.
Yeah, and before we get to the afternoon kicks, I do want to do a little promo because today's the last day. It expires after Monday Night Football tonight. I always talk about don't buy a play, buy a package. If you want to buy a package, this is the package, and today's the last day it's going to be available at this price, potentially ever. Use promo code TEDDY365 at checkout. You get every play, every day, in every sport. All 5%, everything's included. There's no bait and switch. There's no nonsense. Promo code TEDDY365 will get you 365 days, all access, $99 a month. Save more than $800, and you get everything. If you want to ride with me, this is your chance to do it for $99 a month for the next year. Again, promo code TEDDY365. And this offer expires when the game is done tonight. The offer is expired. So take advantage if you want to do it before Monday Night Football. I know it's pricey. We're talking about a season-long package that's more than $1,000, but it's $99 a month for the next year. And it's a deal. It really is. And if you want to ride with me, this is your chance. Like I said, your best opportunity to do it. Raiders and the Rams. Right now, right now, the look headline here, Rams -3. My powering number, Rams -4. The market said 4 is not high enough. Open 5/5.5 last night. We're seeing 6s out there today. 5.5 the prevailing number. 43 the current total on that one. There are some 43.5s out there, so the total really hasn't moved all that much yet. So I said earlier in the show that there were 2 teams that just proved that the quarterback problem is not going anywhere. Tennessee is one of those 2 teams. The Raiders are the other of those 2 teams. Aiden O'Connell is just as bad as Gardner Minshew. Either way, The Raiders do not have a quarterback. Either way, they're looking for a QB again next year. Defense forced no turnovers. Offense turned it over 3 times. They had a punt blocked in the ball game. And obviously, you're playing without their 2 best receivers, Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. You expect the offense to be dicey. We saw the defense look really dicey. They got gashed on the ground. They gave up 183 rushing yards. The only thing impressive for the Raiders yesterday was Brock Bowers. And he was really impressive. 9 catches, 10 targets. Many of them were tough. Bowers living up to the hype. And when you look at this, how much talent this roster has on it, and where my powering number is for the Raiders, there's a disconnect there a little bit, which is probably why my number is a little bit lower than the books. As for the Rams, I mean, this is the worst start since moving to LA in 2016. Last time they dropped 4 of their first 5 to open the season. They were in St. Louis back in 2014. Although last year they went into the bye 3-6 and then went 7-1 down the stretch to reach the playoffs. Sean McVay, quote, "I think we've got to be able to finish games and play consistently throughout." I mean, you look at it, we're a 1-4 football team. 3 of the 4 losses come down to 1-possession games. But this is football. This is where we're at. McVay off a bye. Let's see. 2021, they lost 36-28 at Green Bay, failed to cover. 2022, they lost 31-14 against San Fran, failed to cover. 2023, they beat Seattle 17-16. They had a rally for a double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter. I don't believe they covered that game either. That is not a bet-on track record for McVay with extra time and repair, especially with the early money coming for the Rams. That being said, Raiders don't have a quarterback, and that will continue to be a problem all season long.
Guys, that coupon code is Teddy365 for the savings, $99 a month. We got Carolina and Washington up next. We're seeing the Commanders -7 in the hook. Home favorites 52 being the total. Panthers at Commanders next up here, TC.
A look-ahead line, Washington -8.5. My powering number, Washington -9.5. The markets opened 8 last night, and they've been bet down to 7.5 this morning. We saw Wise Guy money coming against Washington last week as well. And, of course, the Wise Guys laid 6.5 with Baltimore and were able to cash in that ball game. And what are we looking at right now? 7.5, 52 in that range. We've seen a little bit of over money come in on this one. Of course, Washington is the epitome of an over team. It's understandable why we've seen over money. Wouldn't be surprised to see over money every week. And Carolina's offense is getting better, and their defense is getting worse. Their special teams are bad too. But yeah, the worst team in the league, when the defense is getting worse and your special teams are costing you, it's hard. Chuba Hubbard moved the ball all day yesterday, moved the chains. Andy Dalton can throw downfield way better than Bryce Young could. 8 different receivers caught a pass. Dalton sees the field. He even scrambled a couple of times. But when you're a bad team, what can't you have? 10 penalties. They had a punt block. They had 2 turnovers. And, of course, the Panthers' defense has allowed NFL high 203 points in 6 games. That's the 9th most in the Super Bowl era through 6 games. They've given up 34 points or more in 4 games this season. Some of that's the offense stinking, but the defense is pretty bad. Self-inflicted errors over and over and over again for this team. And that's, when you have a very bad football team that's shooting themselves in the foot, they find ways to lose games. Of course, here they have to lose and lose by margin. I'm not sure if I'm ready to lay this type of price with the Commanders. In defeat yesterday, Washington, in some ways, earned the respect of the Wise Guys because they were right in that game. All right, with Baltimore. They were not outclassed. They couldn't run the football. The running backs just 11 of 30, and they still kept the game 11 rushes for 30 yards. And they still kept the game competitive. Of course, Brian Robinson Jr. was out. Just 52 yards on the ground for the game. Jaden Daniels, rookie QB playing from behind. This is when QBs struggle. This is when they throw picks. Nope. 0 interceptions, 269 passing yards on 24 completions, and he was the team's leading rusher. Now, of course, defensively, and why we're seeing over money for this game, they allowed 12.4 yards per pass attempt, and Derrick Henry had 132 yards and 2 touchdowns, 484 total yards. So 2 defenses who are not trustworthy. Lots of over money showing early for this one.
Teddy, big one up next. Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers. We are seeing the Niners -1 point home favorites pretty much across the board. 46 and a hook or 47 being the total. It's Chiefs at Niners.
Yeah, look at line here. San Fran -2. My powering number is Pick'em. Markets opened 49ers 1 and 46.5 last night. Basically, that's what we're talking about today. There are 47s out there as well. but I call the prevailing total 46.5. Kansas City, 5-0 going into the bye. That's not a bet on spot coming out. Same thing with Minnesota. Although, we look at the history. I like to look at the coach's history when it comes to bye weeks. Last year, KC 7-2 straight up into the bye. They came off a win against Miami. Coming out of the bye, lost at home to Philly, 21-17, only 17 points scored. In 2022, 5-2 into the bye, coming off a win against San Francisco prior to the bye. They came out, they barely beat Tennessee 20-17 in overtime, no cover, never sniffed a cover in that ballgame. 2021, they went into the bye 4-0 in their last 4 games. They came out and beat Denver, but Denver beat themselves, and KC only scored 22 in that contest. So the Chiefs off a bye, not necessarily as bet on, and certainly the offense hasn't clicked in any recent seasons. San Fran struggling to put teams away, though. We talk about laying a price with the 49ers, not really laying a price with them because basically a win covers a point spread. But I've seen it 3 times now where twice they lost the game and they were killing Seattle, and all of a sudden it's 29-24. The ball game. The same story against Arizona the previous week. Now, Isaac Guerrero is the 76-yard dash downfield was allowed them to put the game away, but this has been a problem going for the jugular. Brock Purdy, quote, "We talk about it all the time. It's something we have to get better at this season. Coach always says no matter what the score is, our offense should be able to put up points when our team needs it." And certainly San Fran against Seattle showed what this offense is capable of doing. That being said, Seattle's defense is a injury-riddled sieve. Kansas City's defense was good enough to win the Super Bowl last year.
Teddy, I love the analysis, man. Anything with the Super Bowl rematch, though, factoring into your handicap for this season?
It's a Super Bowl rematch on San Fran's home field. And again, why is my number pick 'em and the look ahead was 2? That has a lot to do with that. And the interesting thing, the look ahead was 2, and the markets have settled on 1, and Kansas City didn't do anything, and San Fran won and covered, which speaks, perhaps to the Super Bowl rematch, why San Fran is favored, but it also speaks to Kansas City's defense.
Absolutely, man. We got the last Sunday game. We got 2 Monday nighters this upcoming week, guys. It's New York Jets, Pittsburgh Steelers, Sunday night football here, 5:20 p.m. Pacific, 8:20 Eastern, -1 in the hook. That is the Steelers as the home favorite, 36 being the total. Jets at Steelers from the Steel City, TC.
Look at line, Pittsburgh -1. My powering number, Pittsburgh -2. The markets decided, let's split the difference. 1.5, 37 last night. We're seeing under money come in at the open. Total down to 36.5 here. I just ran into this stat before I came on air. I was reading an article. Justin Fields, 14 wins. I think it was 14 wins, and I'm trying to remember it. But in his 14 NFL wins as a starting quarterback, the defense has allowed 20 or less in all 14 of those games. So if you're betting on Pittsburgh, you bet the opposing team total under. And of course, the Jets play tonight. There is potential for a significant power rating adjustment. If the Jets look really good and annihilate the Bills, there will be some Jets support moving forward with the new head coach. If the Jets get destroyed by the Bills, there could be a market crashing on New York type of a scenario. So if you do have an opinion tonight, and I'm passing on the Monday Night Football game, but if you have a bettable opinion tonight, this is a scenario where you might want to think about making 2 bets, either betting the Jets twice or betting the Bills and then the Steelers, because you'll probably get the best of the number if you do that. So the Jets, this particular performance, the spotlight's shining really bright on the Jets for tonight, and their performance will affect their power rating number moving forward significantly. Of course, for Pittsburgh, when their opponent scores, they can't win. It really felt like Fields was about 1 play away from being benched for Russell Wilson. He threw a bad interception. Pittsburgh was trailing 7-6 at the time, but the Raiders were called for a personal foul on the play. The Steelers got the ball back. They ended up punching in a touchdown. Fields actually punched in a touchdown on a nice QB scramble, and they never looked back. How'd they do it? Real simple. 35 rushes, 183 yards on the ground against the Raiders. Don't know if that's going to work against the Jets. No one's been able to run the football like that against the Jets. Najee Harris, the best game I've seen from him in a long time, 14 for 106. He entered the game averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Pittsburgh's defense, TJ Watt forced 2 fumbles, had 2 tackles for loss. They held the Raiders to 275 yards. This is after giving up a combined 803 yards in their previous 2 losses. Again, when Pittsburgh holds their opponent to 20 or less, they're going to win games. They did that yesterday. And in theory, they could do that against the Jets, although they were +3 in turnovers against the Raiders. Don't know if you're going to get that 2 weeks in a row.
Turning the page, guys. Doubleheader Monday night, October 21st. First game up, we get 8:15 Eastern. Heading to Raymond James, Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good one here, Teddy. -3 in the hook. That is the Ravens. Moving from last night, -4.5. Do note that. So a full point move here. 48 being the total. Ravens at Buccaneers.
Line here, Baltimore -4.5. My powering number, Baltimore -3. The markets opened 4.50 last night, and we've seen nothing but Tampa money down to 3.5 and under money down to 48.5 this morning. So Tampa money and under money from the open. Baltimore's offense is pretty freaking good yesterday. Lamar Jackson, just to pick your poison offense. When you have Derrick Henry running for 132 yards, he's now got an NFL leading 9 touchdowns. You got Zay Flowers with a career high 132 yards receiving. You have Lamar Jackson, number 2 on the all-time career rushing list among quarterbacks. I think only Michael Vick is higher than him. Tight end Mark Andrews, quote, "Guys are going to get their touches and get the ball and good things will happen." That's what happened today. We're extremely versatile in what we're doing. We're going to take this. We're going to take this game, get better from it week by week, and become the machine that we can be. Baltimore is certainly showing signs of being a machine offensively right now. Tampa hung a 50 burger yesterday in New Orleans, and they played, I think, the single worst quarter of any team that I've seen play all year. In the second quarter against New Orleans, it starts like this. I think it was late first quarter, actually, when this happened. Baker Mayfield misses a wide open receiver in the end zone. And then they allowed a punt return touchdown. And then they had bad turnovers deep in their own territory on back-to-back drives. They allowed touchdowns on both, threw another pick before halftime. And they still trailed by only 3. After all of that, second half, 27-0 Tampa. They destroyed them. 35 carries, 277 yards. Taylor and Bucky Irving. The offense had 8.2 yards per play, defense 4.9. They had 12 penalties, they had 3 turnovers, and still won by 24. It was not a clean game by any stretch of the imagination. But again, just a 15 in NFL history to have 300 yards passing, 275 yards rushing in the same game. The 594 yards of total offense, the second most ever yielded by the Saints. It is worth note these post-game quotes from Baker Mayfield, because this is distraction territory. Remember, I liked Tampa last week. I talked about it, gave it as a free play on WagerTalk today. Used it as a client play. We used it on Bet on It. But a part of the reason why I like Tampa is because they're leaving town and getting away from the hurricane. Now they're coming back to town and dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane. Baker Mayfield, quote, "The last few weeks have been tough for Tampa area and all of South Florida. Today was a team embracing everything that everyone was going through, ups and downs, handling it the best way you can, fighting through it and try to make it work. That's life. Obviously, a natural disaster is not easy to deal with, but you find a way to overcome." Now that Tampa is returning home, now they have to deal with the consequences of what the hurricane may have done to their properties and their living situations and all of that. And that could be a distraction even as late as next Monday for Monday Night Football.
Teddy, you flipped the script on me, man. I was going to come back with a question about that because doing this show from you, I've learned like teams traveling east to west and west to east with 2 games, they stay over and they have that team building experience. I was going to use what you said towards a positive with the Buccaneers in that they left early last week, therefore staying as a team in New Orleans. Would that actually be a bet on? But you kind of flipped it there to maybe it wouldn't be. I found that as an interesting part of the handicap.
So one of the reasons that I take road teams more than home teams, all right, in general, across sports, is A, home field advantage isn't worth all that much when you look at the actual numbers. And B, when you're at home, 25 guys, 25 cabs. Everyone does their own thing. When you're on the road, teams bond, teams build. It's a whole different scenario. For Tampa, who spent the whole week last week, yeah, positive sign. But now what happens? You return home and you got to deal with the aftermath. All the stuff you were able to push in the background last week and focus on New Orleans, now you got to go home and clean up messes, and that can be, again, they played Monday night, which is a positive thing. It gives them a little bit extra time, but I wouldn't, last week's team bonding was for last week's game. I got to get different team bonding for this week's game.
No, that's a good point, because that second game of what I'm bringing up, east to west or west to east, you would still be on the road. This is, I guess, fundamentally different being back at home. Great point there, Teddy. Guys, we got one game left, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. It is the LA Chargers, Arizona Cardinals. Chargers -3, actually -2 and a hook at a lot of books here as the short road favorite, 43 and a hook or 44 being the total, TC.
Yeah, the NFL's been pretty good for me the last couple of weeks, riding a 70% NFL run. The only thing that's kept me from a perfect day yesterday was the stupid freaking Giants. And I had my first 5% big ticket of the season in the NFL yesterday. That was on the LA Chargers. And that was easy until it wasn't. Talk about that in a minute. Look at line here. Pick 'em, which is something of a surprise. I thought it was a surprise at the open. My powering number is the Chargers 4. The market's open 2.5, and they're still seeing mostly 2.5 today. There are some 3s that are popping up for the Chargers. Total 43 at the open. A little bit of over money to 43.5. There isn't even a 44 out there. Chargers were up 23-0 going into the fourth quarter, and they fell asleep in that game, and they were lucky to survive. A missed 2-point conversion was the key play. There were still issues. Only 1 of 3 in the red zone. They scored only 3 points after halftime. They had 37 minutes of possession. Justin Herbert, season high in completion, season high in yards. And it was a lot of dinky-donkey that just ball control, chew up the clock. Jim Harbaugh after the game, quote, "I thought he was as precise as he could be, or as a quarterback could be. There were some great throws, some great moves to avoid the pressure. He was just putting the ball in the appropriate spot throughout the entire game. I was super impressed." Hopefully this reminds everybody that Justin Herbert is really good at playing quarterback. He was putting it on the money. Of course, they're still playing without Joey Bosa. The defense pitched a shutout for third quarter and did their best to collapse in the fourth. At the end of it, again, the Chargers got the money. All's well. We cashed a 5% play. But we do worry about teams that aren't playing 4 quarters worth of football on a week-in, week-out basis. Not going to overreact to what they did down the stretch, but something to think about next time they have a big lead against an opponent that could possibly score. Of course, Arizona played about as bad as they could play yesterday. This is a 2-4 team. Now, it's worth noting the 2 wins immediately after their first 2 wins, blowout loss, non-competitive. Something to remember if Arizona wins another game, or when Arizona wins another game. And again, they had 13 penalties yesterday. They did have bad fumble luck. They fumbled 3 times, and Green Bay recovered all 3. But when you've been averaging a league low 3.8 penalties per game, and then you get called for 13 for 100 yards, and you turn the ball over 3 times, Kyler Murray said it. We play like that, we won't beat anyone. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot against a good team. The injuries starting to mount for Arizona as well. Marvin Harrison left with a concussion yesterday. He's been a non-factor in many games this season. Don't know if he's going to be able to play here. And talk about more guys getting hurt just yesterday. Linebacker Kazir White, the defensive tackle Bilal Nichols, the safety Joey Blunt, the left guard Evan Brown, and Sean Murphy Bunting at corner. They were all injured along with Harrison yesterday. Bunch of fresh names on Arizona's injury report this week. Part of the reason why we've seen so much early money for the Chargers off that look-ahead line of Pick'em.
Teddy, great stuff as always. We got a couple minutes for questions, guys. Fire away in the live chat or comments below. Teddy, we got a couple of questions here with the totals. You led off the show going over some interesting trends totals-wise, and some guys commenting, Sandcastle saying, why is every game flying over the total this year? Under's been a bad bet right now. Is there anything that you're changing in your handicap with the totals market going forward?
Hell no. It hasn't been all year that the totals have been going over. It's just this past week, right. The totals went over. And the week before was 50-50. The week before
Okay.
that, everything was trending under, and September trended under in the NFL. So I guess I disagree with the premise. We had an over week last. Totals will ebb and flow. In theory, the best time for overs is mid-season. The weather's still good, and the offenses have started to find some rhythm. So in theory, this October period should be pretty good for overs. And I talk about it, I talked about it last week. October is your public betting month, all right, when it comes to the NFL. The public wins this month. The public kicked ass yesterday, all right? And part of that is overs. This is the overtime of year. I don't expect it to be nothing but overs moving forward. I'm not afraid to play an under if there's an under that I'm looking at. But from a macro standpoint, October tends to be pretty good for overs, and this last week was really good for overs, but it hasn't been a season-long trend. If we see it again next week, when you have 2 strong over weeks in a row, the third week I do expect a correction. But we've only seen 1 strong over week in a row so far.
Sure. You also see a market. A market shift as well, as the market will get higher if overs keep hitting. Teddy, we get Kyler in here saying,
that's why the third week, if we have like a 12-3 to the over week and then an 11-2-1 to the over week or something, the third week all the totals are inflated, and that's why you look for unders to play. That was exactly my point. True.
Yep, I'm with you, Teddy. It's not a stagnant market. It will change. Teddy, sorry if this is a dumb question, but what do the colors mean on the WagerTalk live odds screen? Kyler, there is no dumb questions. If it's red, that means it's changing like right now. If it's green, then that means I believe it changed like 5 minutes ago, and yellow means it changed like 10 minutes ago. Teddy, anything you want to throw out there with the live odds screen?
Yeah, when you see colors, it means the lines are moving in the fairly recent past. When you see just a normal screen or black, it means the line. The black means the lines moved a while ago, and then no color at all means the lines haven't moved that day or whatever. So it's just an idea to give you how recently the lines have moved, and you can see when the lines are moving. I mean, it really is a great free tool, that WagerTalk live odds screen, to understand how the betting markets work. And more importantly, why things are getting bet and where they get bet in different spots. It's free, all right? You don't have to download anything. Just go to WagerTalk.com and click on live odds. You keep a screen running all day. And it won't, let's put it this way, it won't hurt your handicapping.
Yeah, it will not make you a worse sports bettor. Right. No reason not to, guys. We got Ohio in here. Teddy, you commented to this one. Still need a similar show in college football. Why is college football not having an opening line report on the WagerTalk YouTube channel? I'll say this. We do the opening line report for college football in the playoffs, meaning like the semifinals. If you've been a watcher for years, we will hit those games. I just feel like, Teddy, college football, there's too many games. We can't go over an hour, people won't watch it. That's part of it.
Sure. And the other issue with college football, to create a proper opening line report for college football means you're broadcasting first thing Sunday morning. All right.
Right.
Nobody's ready to broadcast first thing Sunday morning. They're not. I'm not. And when you're doing, and that's the truth of it. And if you want to get into Monday, and all right, well, now we'll look at the Monday. Everything's done by Monday. In terms of the initial moves. The other issue with college football, again, I am a firm believer that college football, if you focus on college football, might be the best sport out there. It really is. But when you're focusing, when you're doing NFL, when you're doing baseball, when you're doing other sports, if you're living college football, there's nothing better. I don't know that you'll have more success. But for the majority of the handicappers, we're not living college football. It's just one piece of the puzzle of an overall handicapping equation. So I know I can't do it. I'm not ready to do it. I'm not ready to do it Monday morning because I'm putting my time into the NFL and get ready for this opening line report. You got to bug somebody else about it. And maybe someone will do it someday. But it's not going to be me, and I don't think it's going to be true. So it's a great suggestion. I wouldn't disagree, but it's a hard show to pull off. It really is. We used to do the opening line Sunday nights, the Stardust line. And that's a possibility. You can do it Sunday night. But then the dust used to open so much, the markets open so much later than they do now. There was value in that show 20 years ago on Sunday night. In the modern era, I'm not convinced that'd be the case.
Yeah, it's almost like the structure of the way the show would be set up, because the line's opening Sunday at 11 a.m. and then we get, Pacific time. I'm talking here, guys. The NFL's kicking off as well, so it wouldn't be as like, I guess what Teddy is saying. I don't know if it would be as successful. Shout out to Mike Campbell in the house, Roger Long, Have Cash, B Daddy, all you guys. We got DJ as well. Appreciate everybody commenting, the live chat, the comments below, guys. Any questions, fire away. And also, Teddy talked about it. Remember that promo code Teddy365. 1 year of Teddy covers, just $99 a month. Nobody knows the NFL better. And you get every sport with TC. So TC, I'll throw it over to you. Promo code Teddy365. It's good till midnight tonight or after the Monday night football game. Teddy, anything you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Yeah, just to be clear, sign up for a 1 year pass, use the promo code at checkout, and you'll be able to take advantage of that offer. It expires after the game tonight. So if there's one, again, I know it's not for everyone, but if you want one package to get on board with me, this is the best opportunity. And I've been pumping it all week because it's a good deal. If you want it, if you don't, it's okay, cool. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the follows. We appreciate the comments. You don't have to buy a package. If you want to get on board, Teddy365 at checkout with that 1 year all access pass. Thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the games. Best of luck in week 7. We'll do it again next Monday. Same time, same channel. Drew and I right here on the WagerTalk YouTube network.
Couldn't say it any better. Teddy covers, Drew Martin checking out. Smash that like button, comment below. Cash those tickets. We'll talk next week.